the maintenance of a weapons system it will never use over its ability to adequately deploy amphibious forces.
William David.
Mr Gray, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and can I begin by congratulating my honourable friend from Stoke-on-Trent for securing this important debate and for making such a first-rate contribution. I think this is one of the few 1.5-hour Westminster Hall debates that I can recall in which there has been virtual unanimity amongst all contributors, and that point has been made very well by my friend, the member for Bridgend. Everyone who made a contribution this morning is of a firm view that the defence of his country requires an amphibious capability. If HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark are scrapped and 1,000 Royal Marines are lost, then it is the effective end of the UK's amphibious capability. We've heard this morning from honourable and right honourable members of great knowledge and expertise, and they largely echo the views of leading figures of the armed forces. At last week's Defence Select Committee, for example, we heard the evidence of Admiral Sir George Zambellas, former First Sea Lord, who said, and members have quoted him, but I will quote him again, "Nobody in the world of complex warfare, especially for an island nation that delivers force from the sea, thinks that a reduction or an end of amphibiosity is a good idea." And there are the words of General Sir Richard Barnes, former Commander Joint Forces Command, who said that the discussion in which we are in means that we run the risk of, I quote, "a ridiculous zero-sum discussion, the nonsense of killing Marines to buy more sailors." In his words, it is a line of madness that to find more sailors, you kill some of the finest infantry in the world, the Royal Marines. And that quote has been used by a number of members, but particularly, I think, by the member for Sedgefield. And I'm sure that all members will agree that those were powerful words, and I'm sure they were well considered. Now, Mr Chairman, since the end of the Second World War, our amphibious capability has been used over 10 times in military action, from Korea and Suez to the Falklands and Sierra Leone, and it has been used to great effect in humanitarian efforts, as demonstrated recently in the Caribbean as part of Operation Rumen. And that point was made by the honourable member for Plymouth South and Davenport. And the Royal Marines have been in almost continuous operations in 30 different campaigns. There have been pressures before to remove this amphibious capability. After our withdrawal from east of Suez in the 1970s and in the early 1980s, but in the past, common sense has always prevailed. Let us not forget that our amphibious shipping and the Royal Marine Command Brigade were crucial in liberating the Falkland Islands. And that point has been very well made by the Right Honourable Member for Rayleigh and Wickford, and in a very powerful contribution, may I say, by my honourable, the honourable friend, the member for Aldershot. After the Falklands, it was agreed that the UK needed to maintain a minimum amphibious force. But post the SDR of 2010, we have seen gradual reductions in capacity.
Would he agree with me that it was actually Labour's 1998 Strategic Defence Review that defined that the optimum capability was not just the 2 Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers, but 6 Point-class Sea Lift ships, 1 LHD in HMS Ocean, 2 LPDs in the Albion class and 4 LSDAs in the Bay class? That was the optimum capability for amphibiosity in the UK, and that assumption should not have changed. Why has it changed? And there's no explanation from the Minister as to why the SDSR of 1998 has changed. Why has it been cut since?
William David.
My honourable friend makes his point well, and I absolutely agree with him. But let us bear in mind too that more recently the Marines have lost 400 personnel, and it is rumoured that the newly refitted HMS Ocean will be sold to Brazil for a very modest £80 million. This brings us to where we are today. We learned through a press last week that the new Secretary of State for Defence was of the view that the cuts to Albion, Bulwark and the Marines could not be justified. We read that he was asking the Treasury for an extra £2 billion to help to fill a gap in the MOD's finances and to order for cuts to the Navy. But this weekend, We read in the press that the Treasury had given the Defence Secretary a cold shoulder, and it said emphatically there was to be no more money made available. Some reports have suggested that the request wasn't even made by the Defence Secretary to the Treasury. So can the Minister clarify this morning exactly where we are? Is the view of the Ministry of Defence that, as everybody here has argued, and as so many defence experts have stated, there is no rationale for effectively ending the Navy's amphibious capability? If the Minister is prepared to say this, then she will have the support of all her party and of the opposition. Surely all of us need to recognise that this issue is above crude party politics. We are talking about the ability of our country to defend itself effectively, and without an amphibious capability, we are not able to do so.
Harry Corbyn.